She was a humble woman who worked as a cleaner in the mansion of a billionaire. When he lost his memory in an accident, she was the only person who helped him rediscover his life and his heart. The deafening roar of the helicopter hovered above the roof of the skyscraper, its rotors cutting through the Manhattan morning air. Alexander Rothschild III adjusted his silk tie and took one last look at his reflection in the tinted glass of the helipad. At 35, he was the embodiment of success. Billionaire CEO, eligible bachelor and owner of a real estate empire that rivaled those of the Rockefellers. Mr. Rothschild, we're ready to take off, the pilot announced over the intercom. Alexander nodded distractedly, his mind already focused on the crucial meeting awaiting him in Washington. Another acquisition, another billion-dollar deal. That's how his world revolved. 15 floors below, in the same building, Rosa Mendez was scrubbing the marble floor of the main lobby. At 28, she was invisible to people like Alexander, just another Mexican immigrant trying to survive in the big city. Her calloused hands pushed the mop with a determination born of necessity. "Rosa, I need you to clean the presidential suite today," said the building manager, hurrying past. "Mr. Rothschild is traveling, and we have a VIP client arriving in the evening." Rosa nodded, swallowing a sigh. Overtime meant more money, but it also meant less time with her 6-year-old son, Miguel. Life was a constant negotiation between survival and love. As Alexander's helicopter took off, carrying him to another day of conquest and power, Rosa took the service elevator, slowly ascending to clean up the remnants of the life of luxury that would never be hers. Neither of them could have imagined how catastrophically their paths were about to cross. The helicopter trip should have been routine. Alexander had flown the Manhattan-Washington route hundreds of times, but fate had other plans that day. It was over the Hudson River that everything went wrong. A sudden alarm, followed by the pilot's shout, "Mayday, Mayday, we're losing altitude!" Alexander barely had time to process what was happening. The world spun, metal creaked, and then darkness. Hours later, he woke up in a hospital bed, disoriented and confused. A middle-aged nurse looked at him with concern. Where am I?" Alexander mumbled, his voice hoarse. "At New York Presbyterian Hospital, sir," the nurse replied gently. "You were in a helicopter accident. It's a miracle you survived." Alexander blinked, trying to take in the information. But something was wrong, terribly wrong. Who am I?" The question hung in the air, heavy and frightening. The nurse exchanged worried glances with the doctor who had just entered the room. "Sir, don't you remember? Your name is Alexander Rothschild. You're a—" "No," Alexander interrupted her, panic growing in his voice. I don't remember anything. Nothing." The diagnosis came quickly and relentlessly. Severe retrograde amnesia. Alexander Rothschild, the man who had the world at his feet, now didn't even know who he was. While the business world went into a frenzy at the news of Alexander's accident, Rosa continued her daily cleaning routine at the Rothschild Tower. Gossip was rife among the staff, but she had little time for speculation. There was work to be done and bills to pay. It was while cleaning the presidential suite that Rosa heard the news on the radio she always carried with her. Billionaire Alexander Rothschild was released from hospital today, just 3 days after his miraculous rescue from the helicopter crash. Sources close to him say that he suffers from amnesia and can't remember his identity or his business empire. Rosa paused for a moment, her hand suspended in the air with a feather duster. She didn't know Mr. Rothschild personally, but the idea of someone losing all their memory, all their identity, touched her deeply. How many times had she wanted to forget the difficulties of her own life? But to forget everything, that seemed like a curse worse than any problem she was facing. The sound of the elevator interrupted her thoughts. The doors opened, and Rosa found herself face to face with a man who looked lost and vulnerable, an unrecognizable version of the powerful Alexander Rothschild she only knew from pictures in business magazines. "Excuse me," he said, hesitantly. I think I live here." Rosa froze, uncertain how to react. The richest man in New York was standing in front of her, looking as lost as she had felt when she first arrived in the city years ago. "Yes, sir," she replied softly, deciding to treat the situation with the compassion she would have liked to have received in her moments of vulnerability. "This is your home. Can I help you with anything?" Alexander, or the man who had once been Alexander, looked at her with a gratitude he would never have shown in his previous life. I don't know. I don't remember anything. Who are you?" Rosa hesitated for a moment. Under normal circumstances, she would be just another invisible employee. But now, in this surreal moment, she was this man's only connection to the world he had forgotten. "My name is Rosa, sir. I work here, and I promise I'll help you in any way I can." In that instant, two worlds that should never meet collided. The billionaire with no memory and the cleaning lady with a heart bigger than her circumstances were about to embark on a journey that would change them both forever. Alexander took a hesitant step into the suite, his eyes roaming over the luxury he didn't recognize. Rosa, moved by an impulse of compassion that surpassed any protocol, gently guided him to the sofa. "Why don't you sit down for a while, sir? You must be tired after the hospital." He obeyed, looking like a child lost in a world of adults. Rosa bit her lip, torn between her professional duty and the human desire to help someone in need. "Do you want me to call someone? Your family, perhaps?" Alexander shook his head, a shadow of frustration crossing his face. "I don't know if I have any family. The doctor said there's no one. Just lawyers and assistants. No one who really knows me." Rosa's heart squeezed. She knew loneliness well, but at least she had Miguel. She had her memories. This man had nothing. "Well," she said, making a decision that could change everything. "Then let's start from scratch. My name is Rosa Mendez. I've been working here for 5 years, and I promise I'll help you rediscover who you are, Mr. Rothschild." For the first time since entering the room, a small smile appeared on Alexander's face. "Thank you, Rosa. And please, call me Alex, at least until I remember if I like being called Alexander." At that moment, as the afternoon sun bathed the luxurious suite in golden hues, an unlikely friendship began to blossom. A friendship that would defy the barriers of class, ethnicity, and circumstance. A friendship that, unbeknownst to them, was about to shake the foundations of the Rothschild empire and change the course of their lives forever. The next few days were a whirlwind of discoveries for Alex. Every object in his penthouse was a new surprise, every photograph a mystery. Rosa, contrary to all expectations and probably various company policies, became his anchor in this sea of uncertainty. "What's this?" Alex asked, holding up a small golden trophy. Rosa approached, wiping her hands on her apron. "It looks like a golf prize, sir." "I mean, Alex," she corrected, still getting used to the informality he had asked for. Alex frowned, turning the object over in his hands. "Do I play golf?" "From what I heard from the other employees, you were practically a pro," Rosa replied, a soft smile on her lips. It was strange to see the powerful Alexander Rothschild so vulnerable, so human. Meanwhile, in the offices of Rothschild Enterprises in downtown Manhattan, chaos reigned. Bernard Hawthorne, the company's CFO, paced back and forth in his office, his phone pressed to his ear. "No, we can't postpone the merger with West Coast Tech. Alexander signed the papers before the accident. It's legally binding," he argued, running his hand through his gray hair. "Yes, I know he doesn't remember anything, but so what? The contracts are signed." On the other end of the line, the irritated voice of a lawyer retorted something about ethics and morality. Bernard rolled his eyes. "Ethics? Morality? We're talking billions of dollars here. Look, just keep Alexander away from the press. The last thing we need is him saying something that could bring down our shares." Hanging up the phone, Bernard threw himself into his leather chair. The situation was getting out of hand. Alexander was the face of the company, the genius behind every negotiation. Without his memory, without his cunning, everything could fall apart. Back at the penthouse, Alex and Rosa were sitting on the living room floor, surrounded by photo albums and newspaper clippings. "So, I built all this?" Alex asked, looking at a photo of himself cutting the ribbon at the opening of a skyscraper. Rosa nodded. "Yes, you turned your father's company into an empire. At least that's what everyone says." Alex was silent for a moment, absorbing the information. "It's strange, you know, looking at these photos and not feeling anything, as if I were seeing someone else's life." Rosa looked at him with compassion. In just a few days, she had seen more sides of Alexander Rothschild than probably anyone else in years. The arrogant, ruthless tabloid man had given way to someone confused, curious, and, surprisingly, kind. Maybe this is an opportunity," Rosa said hesitantly, surprising herself with her own boldness. Alex looked at her, puzzled. "What do you mean?" "Well, you have the chance to rediscover who you are, without expectations, without the weight of the past. You can choose what kind of person you want to be now." Rosa's words hung in the air, full of possibilities. Alex pondered them, feeling a strange mixture of fear and excitement. The moment was interrupted by the shrill ring of the telephone. Rosa stood up quickly, returning to her role as an employee. "Mr. Rothschild's residence," she answered, her voice professional. After a few moments, she held out the phone to Alex. "It's Mr. Hawthorne, from the company. He says it's urgent." Alex took the phone hesitantly. "Hello? Alexander, thank God. Listen, we need you to come to the office immediately. There are crucial decisions that need to be made, and I don't know if I'm ready for this," Alex interrupted, his voice shaking slightly. On the other end of the line, Bernard paused, clearly irritated. "Alexander, you're the CEO. Ready or not, the company needs you. Thousands of jobs depend on your decisions." Alex looked at Rosa, who was pretending to be busy tidying up the albums, but was clearly listening to the conversation. He saw in her a simplicity and honesty that contrasted sharply with the pressure he felt coming from the phone. "Mr. Hawthorne, I'm sorry, but I can't make decisions about things I don't understand. I need more time." "Time!" Bernard practically shouted. "We don't have time. The grant opens in—" Alex hung up the phone, his hand shaking slightly. Rosa looked at him, surprised and a little worried. "Is everything all right?" she asked softly. Alex took a deep breath, wiping his hand across his face. "I don't know. Apparently, there's a whole empire depending on me, and I can barely remember how to tie my shoes." Rosa hesitated for a moment before speaking. "You know, Alex, sometimes the bravest thing you can do is admit that you don't know something. You don't need to have all the answers right now." Rosa's words, simple and sincere, touched Alex in a way he hadn't expected. It was a stark contrast to the pressure and expectations that seemed to come from all sides. "Rosa," he said, looking her in the eye, "do you think you could help me understand all this? Not just about who I was, but about how it all works. I trust you." The statement took Rosa by surprise. Here she was, a simple cleaner, being asked to mentor one of the most powerful men in New York. It was absurd, impossible, and yet, I can try," she replied, her voice barely above a whisper. "But Alex, you have to understand, I'm just a cleaner. There are things about your world that I'll never fully understand." Alex smiled, a genuine smile that lit up her face in a way Rosa had never seen before. "Maybe that's exactly what I need, someone who sees things from a different perspective." At that moment, something changed between them. It was no longer just an amnesiac billionaire and a compassionate cleaning lady. It was the beginning of an unlikely partnership, a friendship that would defy all conventions. Meanwhile, in the corridors of power at Rothschild Enterprises, gears were beginning to turn. Bernard Hawthorne was not a man to take no for an answer, especially when billions were at stake. If Alexander couldn't or wouldn't lead, other measures would have to be taken. The sun was beginning to set over Manhattan, casting long shadows through the penthouse windows. Alex and Rosa remained sitting on the floor, surrounded by the fragments of the life he couldn't remember. "Rosa," Alex said softly, "I think I want to see the city tomorrow. Not as Alexander Rothschild, the tycoon, but as I am now. Would you accompany me?" Rosa hesitated, thinking of Miguel, of her responsibilities. But there was something in Alex's eyes, a mixture of hope and fear, that made her nod. Of course, Alex. Tomorrow, we'll rediscover New York together. As night fell over the city that never sleeps, two worlds continued to collide and intertwine. Alexander Rothschild, the man who had everything and lost himself, and Rosa Mendez, the woman who had little but knew exactly who she was. Together, they were about to embark on a journey that would test the limits of friendship, identity, and what really matters in life. Tomorrow would bring challenges that neither of them could foresee. But for now, in that twilight-lit room, there were just two people, connected by extraordinary circumstances, ready to face the unknown side by side. The sun had barely risen when Rosa arrived at the Rothschild Tower that morning. She nervously smoothed her hair before entering the private elevator that would take her to the penthouse. The thought of spending the day exploring New York with Alex made her anxious, not only because of the strangeness of the situation, but also because of the guilt she felt for leaving her work behind. When the elevator doors opened, Rosa was greeted by an Alex already dressed and ready to leave. He was wearing jeans, a simple t-shirt, and a cap, a look she would never have imagined seeing on the former Alexander Rothschild. "Good morning, Rosa," he greeted her with a cheerful smile. "I hope I didn't overdo it with the disguise. I just want to go unnoticed today." Rosa couldn't help but smile a little. "Good morning, Alex. You look great. No one will recognize you like this." They left the building through the back, avoiding the prying eyes of the employees and the press who were still hanging around the main entrance. The streets of Manhattan were beginning to come alive, the buzz of the city increasing by the minute. "Where do we start?" Alex asked, his eyes shining with anticipation like a child's. Rosa thought for a moment. "How about we start with the basics? Let's take the subway to Central Park." The subway station was a completely new world for Alex. He watched everything with fascination. The rushing people, the street musicians, the noise of the trains. Rosa guided him patiently, explaining how to buy a ticket and navigate the platforms. "It's amazing," Alex muttered as they waited for the train. "All this life going on down here, and I never knew." Rosa watched him curiously. "Have you really never ridden the subway before?" Alex shrugged. "Apparently not. At least not that I can remember." The train arrived, packed as always on New York mornings. They squeezed between the passengers, Rosa instinctively holding onto Alex's arm so they wouldn't get separated. The contact, although innocent, sent an electric current through them both, making them exchange a quick glance before looking away, embarrassed. Exiting at Central Park Station, they emerged into the sunlight and lush greenery of the park. Alex took a deep breath, absorbing the view. "It's beautiful," he said simply. They walked along the park's winding paths, Rosa pointing out points of interest and sharing stories of the summers she had spent there with Miguel. Alex listened intently, fascinated not only by the park, but by Rosa's life. "What's it like?" he asked suddenly. "Having a child, I mean?" Rosa smiled, her eyes lighting up. It's everything. Miguel is my reason for living, my motivation to keep going every day. It's not easy, especially being a single mother, but every smile he has makes it all worthwhile." Alex nodded thoughtfully. "You're incredible, Rosa. Raising a child on your own, working so hard, I admire you so much." Alex's words took Rosa by surprise. She felt her cheeks heat up and looked away, not knowing how to respond. The moment was interrupted by the ringing of Alex's cell phone, a new, simple device that Bernard had insisted he carry. Alex looked at the screen with a grimace. "It's Bernard again. He's been calling nonstop." Rosa hesitated before speaking. Maybe you should answer it. It could be important." Alex sighed, but nodded. He moved away a little to take the call, while Rosa watched the children playing in a nearby playground. "No, Bernard. I told you I need more time." Alex's voice rose in frustration. "I can't make decisions about things I don't understand." When Alex returned, his expression was tense. "They want me to come back. They say there are important decisions that can't wait." Rosa felt a pang of guilt. "Alex, I'm sorry. Maybe we shouldn't have left like this. Your life, your company. These are important responsibilities. Alex shook his head, running a hand through his hair. But that's the problem, Rosa. I don't feel connected to any of this. This company, this empire, they mean nothing to me now. How can I make decisions that affect thousands of lives when I don't even know who I am? The weight of Alex's words hung between them. Rosa realized, perhaps for the first time, the true burden Alex carried. It wasn't just memory loss, but the crushing pressure of a life and responsibilities he didn't choose, at least not this version of him. Alex, Rosa said softly, putting a hand on his arm. You don't need to have all the answers right now, but maybe it's time to start asking some questions. Alex looked at her, a mixture of gratitude and fear in his eyes. What kind of questions? About who you want to be now. About what really matters to you. You have a unique chance to redefine your life, Alex. Don't waste it. Rosa's words resonated deeply with Alex. He looked around, at the families in the park, at the skyscrapers rising on the horizon, symbols of the empire he had built, but which now seemed so far away. You're right, he finally said. I can't run away forever. I have to face it. But, in my own time, in my own way. Rosa smiled, feeling a mixture of pride and apprehension. And how do you want to do that? Alex thought for a moment before answering. I want to see more, not just the tourist sites, but the real city, the neighborhoods where ordinary people live, work, and dream. I want to understand the New York I never knew. Alex's request took Rosa by surprise. It was an opportunity to show him a side of the city, and of life, that the former Alexander Rothschild would probably never have considered worthy of attention. All right, she agreed, but on one condition. Afterwards, will you promise to go to the office and at least listen to what they have to say? Alex hesitated, but eventually nodded. I promise, but will you come with me? The question made Rosa freeze. Enter the offices of Rothschild Enterprises. She, a simple cleaner. The idea was absurd and yet strangely tempting. I don't know if it would be appropriate, Alex. Please, he insisted, his eyes pleading. I trust you, Rosa. I need someone by my side who isn't trying to manipulate or pressure me. Rosa felt the weight of responsibility on her shoulders. She knew she was getting involved in something much bigger than she had ever imagined. Something that could change her life, and Alex's, forever. Okay, she finally agreed. I'll go with you. With the decision made, they left Central Park, embarking on a journey through New York's less glamorous neighborhoods. Alex observed everything with new eyes. The convenience stores, the cramped apartment buildings, the people struggling to survive in one of the most expensive cities in the world. In Queens, they stopped at a small Mexican restaurant. The smell of spices and the sound of Latin music filled the air. Rosa smiled, feeling at home. My mother used to make enchiladas like this, she said, savoring the food. On Sundays, when she wasn't working. Alex watched her, fascinated. Tell me more about your family, Rosa. What was it like growing up? And so, between plates of homemade food and the buzz of the restaurant, Rosa shared her story. She talked about her parents, immigrants who came to the United States in search of a better life, about the sacrifices they made, the jobs they took, the dreams they had to postpone. Alex listened attentively, his eyes opening to a reality that he, in his previous life, would probably never have considered. The daily struggles, the small victories, the resilience needed to survive in a city that could be as cruel as it was beautiful. When they left the restaurant, the sun was already setting, painting the New York sky in shades of orange and pink. Alex looked pensive, almost melancholy. Rosa, he said softly, thank you for today, for showing me a New York I never knew, or never cared to know. Rosa smiled, feeling a strange mixture of pride and sadness. I'm glad you liked it, Alex. This is the real city, you know, not just the skyscrapers and the bright lights, but the people who make it all work. Alex nodded, his expression serious. I understand that now, and I think I'm ready to face what awaits me in the company, but with a new perspective. As they walked back to the subway side by side, Rosa sensed that something fundamental had changed, not just in Alex, but in her too. They were about to enter a world she had never been a part of, and the consequences were unpredictable. Alex's phone rang again. Bernard, no doubt. But this time, instead of ignoring it, Alex answered with a new determination in her voice. Bernard, yes, I'll be there tomorrow morning. And I'll be bringing someone with me, someone I trust. He hung up and looked at Rosa, a small smile on his lips. Ready to shake things up a bit? Rosa swallowed, feeling the weight of the moment. I think so, she replied, her voice barely above a whisper. As the subway took them back to Manhattan, the skyscrapers rising up around them, Rosa couldn't help but think, what would tomorrow bring? How would her life and Alex's change after they crossed the threshold of Rothschild Enterprises? The future was uncertain, but one thing was clear. Nothing would ever be the same. The sun had barely risen when Rosa arrived at the Rothschild Tower the next morning. Dressed in her best clothes, a black pencil skirt and a white blouse she saved for special occasions, she felt out of place and nervous. The guard at the entrance eyed her suspiciously until Alex appeared, smiling warmly. Good morning, Rosa, he greeted her, looking as nervous as she was, even in his impeccable suit. Ready? Rosa nodded, unable to form words. Together, they entered the private elevator that would take them to the upper floors of Rothschild Enterprises. The office was a whirlwind of activity when the elevator doors opened. Employees were running around, phones were ringing incessantly, and the air was charged with tension. Everyone stopped for a moment when they saw Alex, looks of relief and apprehension mixing on their faces. Bernard Hawthorne intercepted them before they could take 2 steps. Alexander, thank God you're here. We have a critical situation with the merger of West Coast Tech and... He stopped abruptly, noticing Rosa. And who's that? Alex put a protective hand on Rosa's shoulder. This is Rosa Mendez. She's here as my guest and advisor. Bernard could barely hide his surprise and disapproval. Advisor, Alexander, we need to discuss confidential matters. Perhaps it would be better if... Rosa stays, Alex interrupted, his voice firm. She's the only person I trust completely right now. The CFO swallowed his objection, but his glance at Rosa made it clear that she was not welcome. Very well. Please come with me. The board is waiting. As they walked through the luxurious corridors, Rosa felt the curious and judgmental stares of the employees. She held her head high, remembering her mother's words. Never let anyone make you feel less than you are. The meeting room was imposing, with a panoramic view of Manhattan. Executives in expensive suits stood up as Alex entered, their faces a mixture of respect and concern. Gentlemen, Alex began, his voice betraying a slight tremor. I thank you for your patience during this difficult period. I'm here to understand the situation and do what's best for the company. A murmur of approval ran through the room. Bernard took the lead, opening a presentation on the big screen. Alexander, the situation is critical. The merger with West Coast Tech is threatened because of your absence. The shareholders are nervous, and our competitors are taking advantage of the situation. Graphs and figures flooded the screen, a sea of information that made Alex's head spin. Rosa watched in silence, noticing the growing tension in Alex's shoulders. What we need from you, Bernard continued, is a public statement reaffirming your commitment to the merger and the future of the company. Our PR department has prepared a statement. Wait, Alex interrupted, raising his hand. Before any statement, I need to better understand the impact of this merger, not just on the numbers, but on the people. The room fell silent. Bernard exchanged nervous glances with the other executives. People? One of the directors asked. Confused. Yes, people, Alex insisted. How many jobs will be affected? How will this impact the communities where we operate? The silence that followed was deafening. It was clear that no one there was prepared for this kind of question. Rosa felt a mixture of pride and apprehension. This was not the Alexander Rothschild they knew, but the Alex she had helped to rediscover over the last few days. Bernard sniffed, visibly uncomfortable. Alexander, with all due respect, these considerations are secondary. What matters is shareholder value, market expansion. No, Alex interrupted, his voice gaining strength. They're not secondary. They're fundamental. Rosa, he turned to her, what do you think? All eyes turned to Rosa. She felt the weight of that moment, knowing that her words could change the course of many lives. I think Alex is right, she began, her voice low but firm. A company isn't just numbers on a spreadsheet. It's people, families, entire communities. Any decision must consider that impact. The room erupted in excited voices. Executives argued, some agreeing with Alex's new perspective, others insisting that it was madness to risk billions for sentimentality. Alex raised his hands, asking for silence. Gentlemen, I understand your concern, but I won't make any decisions until I have a complete understanding of the situation, and that includes listening not only to you, but also to our employees at all levels. Bernard looked like he was about to have a heart attack. Alexander, this is crazy. We don't have time to... We'll make the time, Alex interrupted, his voice leaving no room for argument. I want meetings with representatives from every department, from the board to, well, even the cleaning staff. Rosa couldn't help but smile a little when she heard that. And I want Rosa to be present at all these meetings, Alex continued. She'll bring a perspective that we've clearly been lacking. The room fell into stunned silence. Bernard looked at Rosa as if she were an intruder who had somehow kidnapped the real Alexander Rothschild. That's highly irregular, he managed to say. Maybe, Alex agreed, but that's how we'll do things from now on. Any objections? The silence that followed was answer enough. When the meeting finally ended, Alex and Rosa left the room, leaving behind a group of dazed and confused executives. You were amazing in there, Rosa whispered as they walked down the corridor. Alex smiled, but she could see the tiredness in his eyes. Thank you for being there for me. I don't know if I could have done it without you. They stopped in front of a huge window, the city stretching out below them. Alex looked out at the horizon, pensive. Rosa, I think I understand now why the old me built all this. The power, the control, must have been intoxicating. But now, looking at this city, all I see are the lives our decisions affect. Rosa placed a hand gently on his arm. It's a big responsibility, Alex. But you're not alone. He turned to her, their eyes meeting. For a moment, the world seemed to disappear around them. Alex leaned in slightly, as if to... The moment was interrupted by the sound of hurried footsteps. Bernard approached, his face a mask of restrained concern. Alexander, West Coast Tech's lawyers are on the line. They want immediate assurances about the merger. Alex took a deep breath, straightening his shoulders. Tell them they'll have our answer soon. But first, we have a lot of work to do. As Bernard walked away, muttering in frustration, Alex turned to Rosa again. Ready to shake things up a bit more? He asked, a small smile playing on his lips. Rosa nodded, feeling a mixture of fear and excitement. Ready. As they walked back to the offices, Rosa couldn't help thinking about how her life had changed in just a few days. From cleaning lady to advisor to one of the most powerful men in New York. It was surreal, frightening, and somehow absolutely right. What she didn't know was that the real trials were yet to come. The forces opposing Alex's new vision were gathering, and not everyone was willing to accept this change of course peacefully. As the sun set over Manhattan, casting long shadows across the corridors of Rothschild Enterprises, one thing was clear. The world Alex and Rosa knew was about to change forever, and they would be at the center of that storm. The Rothschild Enterprises office was buzzing like an agitated beehive. In the days that followed the surprising board meeting, Alex, with Rosa always at his side, plunged headlong into the task of understanding every aspect of his empire. Conference rooms that had previously seen only high-ranking executives now hosted an eclectic mix of employees, from mid-level managers to cleaners and security guards. Rosa's presence, once viewed with disdain, was now accepted, albeit reluctantly. "I never thought I'd be sitting here," whispered Margot, a middle-aged receptionist, to Rosa as they waited for another meeting to begin. "In 20 years, this is the first time anyone has asked me my opinion on anything." Rosa smiled gently. "Things are changing, Margot. For the better, I hope." The door opened and Alex walked in, looking tired but determined. He smiled at the sight of Rosa, a brief moment of connection before turning his attention to the group. "Good morning, everyone. Thank you for being here. Today, I want to hear your ideas on how we can improve our day-to-day operations." The meeting was lively, with ideas flowing freely. Employees who had previously barely dared to make eye contact with management now expressed their opinions with growing confidence. By the end, Alex seemed energized. "That was amazing. Why haven't we done this before?" "Because the old you didn't care," Rosa answered honestly, drawing a surprised laugh from Alex. As they left the room, Bernard intercepted them, his face a mask of restrained concern. "Alexander, we need to talk, in private." His glance at Rosa made it clear that she was not welcome. Alex frowned. "Whatever it is, Bernard, you can say it in front of Rosa." The CFO sighed, clearly annoyed. "Very well. West Coast Tech's lawyers are getting impatient. They're threatening to withdraw the merger offer if we don't have a concrete answer by the end of the week." Alex nodded thoughtfully. "I see. Set up a video conference with them for tomorrow. I want to hear directly from them before I make any decisions." Bernard looked like he wanted to argue, but held back. With a tense nod, he walked away. "You're doing the right thing, Alex," Rosa said softly when they were alone. Alex smiled, but there was a shadow of doubt in his eyes. "I hope so, Rosa. There's so much at stake." The rest of the day passed in a blur of meetings and phone calls. When they finally had a moment's respite, it was already evening. "How about some fresh air?" Alex suggested, leading Rosa to the private terrace at the top of the building. The view of Manhattan at night was breathtaking. Lights twinkled as far as the eye could see, a carpet of urban stars under the dark sky. "It's beautiful," Rosa whispered, leaning on the balustrade. Alex watched her, his gaze soft. "Yes, it is." For a moment, they stood in silence, absorbing the view and each other's presence. "Rosa," Alex began, hesitantly, I wanted to thank you for everything. I don't know what I would have done without you these last few days." Rosa felt her heart race. "No need to thank me, Alex. Her words were interrupted by the sound of the terrace door opening. Bernard emerged, his face a mask of restrained fury. "Alexander, we need to talk, now." Alex sighed, casting an apologetic glance at Rosa before walking away with Bernard. Even from a distance, Rosa could see the tension in their posture, the heated argument that followed. When Alex returned, minutes later, his face was pale. "What happened?" Rosa asked, worried. Alex ran his hand through his hair, a gesture she already recognized as a sign of stress. "Apparently, some members of the board are questioning my ability to lead the company at the moment. They're considering a vote to temporarily remove me." Rosa felt as if the ground had disappeared from under her feet. "Can they do that?" "Apparently, yes. There are clauses in the contract for situations of incapacity." The word sounded bitter in Alex's mouth. "But that's ridiculous. You're more than capable. You're making important changes." Alex smiled sadly. "Changes that not everyone appreciates, Rosa. For some, I'm a threat to the status quo." The silence that followed was heavy, laden with unspoken implications. "What are you going to do?" Rosa finally asked. Alex looked down at the city below, his eyes distant. "Fight. I can't let them destroy everything we've built, what we're building. But," he turned to Rosa, his eyes searching hers, "I can't do it alone. I need you, Rosa, more than ever." The weight of those words, the intensity of Alex's gaze, made Rosa shiver. She knew she was on the edge of a precipice. Taking this step would mean plunging even deeper into a world that wasn't hers, risking everything she knew. But looking at Alex, seeing the mixture of determination and vulnerability in his eyes, she knew there was no choice. "I'm with you, Alex," she said softly. "All the way." The relief on Alex's face was palpable. For a moment, it looked like he was going to say something more, maybe even lean closer, but the moment passed, leaving only an electric tension in the air between them. "Thank you," he whispered. "Now, let's work out a plan." As they walked back inside, Rosa couldn't help feeling that they were on the brink of something monumental. The forces against them were powerful, the risks enormous, but there was also a sense of purpose, of doing the right thing. What Rosa didn't know was that, at that very moment, other gears were moving. In an office in the city center, an elegant woman was finishing a phone call, a calculating smile on her lips. "Yes, I see. Mr. Rothschild seems unwell. Perhaps it's time to consider other options for the merger." Lauren Blackwood, CEO of West Coast Tech, hung up the phone and leaned back in her chair. The news about the apparent instability in the leadership of Rothschild Enterprises was exactly what she had been waiting for. "Get the jet ready," she instructed her assistant. "It looks like I'll be making a surprise visit to New York." As night fell over Manhattan, the players moved on an invisible board, Alex and Rosa, united in their mission for change, Bernard and the disgruntled council members, plotting to maintain control. And now, a new piece was entering the game, ready to take advantage of any weakness. The storm brewing over Rothschild Enterprises was about to turn into a hurricane. And in the eye of this storm, two hearts were beginning to discover that maybe, just maybe, there was more between them than just alliance. The dawn would bring new challenges, new battles. But for now, in the stillness of the Manhattan night, Alex and Rosa were preparing, side by side, to face whatever fate had in store for them. The sun had barely risen over Manhattan when Alex and Rosa arrived at the Rothschild Tower. The lobby, normally a buzz of activity, was strangely silent. Employees exchanged nervous glances, whispers hanging in the air like a cloud of apprehension. "Something's wrong," Rosa murmured, sensing the tension in the air. Alex nodded, his expression serious. "Let's find out what it is." When they reached the executive floor, they were greeted by a visibly agitated Samantha, Alex's executive assistant. "Mr. Rothschild, thank God you're here," she said, almost stumbling over her words. "Miss Blackwood is here." Alex frowned. "Lauren Blackwood, from West Coast Tech? But didn't we have a video conference scheduled for later?" Samantha nodded nervously. "Yes, sir. She arrived by surprise an hour ago. She's in the conference room with Mr. Hawthorne and some board members." Alex and Rosa exchanged worried glances. This was not a good sign. "Thanks, Samantha." "We'll deal with it," Alex said, his voice calm, but Rosa could feel the tension in his words. As they walked towards the conference room, Alex turned to Rosa. "This could get ugly. You don't have to go in if you don't want to." Rosa straightened her shoulders, meeting Alex's gaze with determination. "I'm with you, remember? All the way." A small smile touched Alex's lips, gratitude evident in his eyes. Together, they opened the doors to the conference room. The silence that greeted them was palpable. Lauren Blackwood, an elegant woman in her 40s, stood at the head of the table, a commanding presence that immediately attracted all eyes. Bernard and the council members were seated, their expressions varying from surprise to discomfort at Alex's arrival. "Ah, Alexander," Lauren said, her smile not reaching her eyes. "How nice of you to join us. We were just discussing the future of our companies." Alex stepped forward, Rosa right behind him. "Lauren, what a surprise. We weren't expecting you in person in New York." "Times call for extraordinary measures, don't you think?" Lauren replied, her gaze flicking briefly to Rosa with barely disguised curiosity. Alex made the introductions quickly, noticing the surprised looks when he introduced Rosa as his consultant. Lauren raised an eyebrow, but didn't comment. "So," Alex began, taking his place at the table, "what exactly were we talking about?" Bernard sniffed uncomfortably. "Ms. Blackwood was expressing some concerns about the stability of Rothschild Enterprises leadership." Concerns, Alex repeated, his voice calm but with an edge of steel. Lauren smiled, a calculated gesture. Alexander, let's be frank. Your recent indisposition has caused ripples in the market. West Coast Tech needs guarantees that this merger will be beneficial to both parties. And what kind of guarantees are you looking for, Lauren? Alex asked, leaning forward. Well, for starters, we'd like a greater say in the post-merger board and, perhaps, a reassessment of the leadership structure. The silence that followed was deafening. It was clear to everyone in the room what Lauren was really proposing, a hostile takeover disguised as a merger. Alex felt Rosa tense up next to him. He took a deep breath, searching for the right words. Lauren, I appreciate your frankness, but I think you're operating on incomplete information. In recent days, we have implemented significant changes at Rothschild Enterprises, changes that I believe will make our company not only stronger, but more adaptable to the future. He gestured to Rosa, who opened a folder they had prepared the night before. If I may, I'd like to present some data that demonstrates the positive impact of these changes. For the next 20 minutes, Alex, with occasional input from Rosa, detailed the initiatives they had implemented. From employee wellness programs to sustainability strategies, each change was presented with concrete data showing improvements in productivity and employee morale. Lauren listened attentively, her expression subtly changing from skepticism to genuine interest. The board members, who had initially looked suspicious, now leaned forward, clearly impressed. When Alex had finished, Lauren was silent for a moment, assessing the situation. Impressive, Alexander, she finally said. I must admit, this is not what I expected to find when I came here today. Alex smiled, but his eyes remained vigilant. Rothschild Enterprises is committed to progress, Lauren. And I believe that a true partnership between our companies could create something revolutionary. But it has to be a genuine partnership, not a disguised takeover. Lauren laughed, a genuinely amused sound. Touché, Alexander. You certainly haven't lost your touch in business. She paused, looking around the table. All right, I'm intrigued. Perhaps we can reopen negotiations with these new developments in mind. The tension in the room visibly eased. Bernard seemed relieved, although still a little disconcerted by the turn of events. As the meeting dissolved into more informal discussions, Rosa pulled Alex aside. You were amazing, she whispered, her eyes shining with admiration. Alex smiled, the adrenaline of victory still coursing through his veins. We were incredible. I couldn't have done it without you, Rosa. For a moment, they stood there, close together, their eyes fixed on each other. The world around them seemed to disappear, and Alex felt an almost irresistible urge to lean over and... Alexander, Lauren's voice brought them back to reality. Can we talk in private for a moment? Alex nodded, casting an apologetic glance at Rosa, before following Lauren into a corner of the room. I must admit, Alexander, Lauren began, her voice low. You surprised me today. But I have to ask, who is this Rosa, really? She seems to have considerable influence over you and the company. Alex hesitated, unsure of how much to reveal. Rosa is a valuable consultant. She brings a unique perspective that has been fundamental to our recent changes. Lauren raised an eyebrow, clearly not convinced by the vague explanation. I see. Well, whatever her story, she certainly seems to have had a positive impact. Take good care of her, Alexander. Talents like that are rare. With an enigmatic smile, Lauren walked away, leaving Alex with an uneasy feeling. He looked over at Rosa, who was chatting animatedly with some of the board members, her face alight with enthusiasm. At that moment, Alex realized two things with crystal clarity. First, that Rosa had become indispensable not only to the company, but to him personally. And secondly, that his feelings for her had turned into something much deeper than simple gratitude or friendship. The problem was that he had no idea how Rosa felt. And with so much at stake, the company, their lives, the future they were building, he didn't know if he could risk everything for something that might just be a one-sided fantasy. As the room buzzed with the renewed energy of negotiations, Alex found himself at a new kind of crossroads. One that didn't involve contracts or mergers, but his own heart. Across the room, Rosa met his gaze and smiled, that warm smile that always seemed to be reserved just for him. Alex felt his heart leap. Maybe, he thought, some bets were worth taking, no matter what the risks. As the day progressed, the negotiations continued, now with a more collaborative tone. But beneath the surface of business, deeper, more personal currents were in motion. Alex and Rosa had won a crucial battle, but the war was far from over. And as they fought for the future of Rothschild Enterprises, they would have to navigate the turbulent waters of their own evolving feelings. The sun was setting over Manhattan, casting a golden glow through the conference room windows. A new day would soon arrive, bringing with it new challenges and perhaps new revelations. For Alex and Rosa, the real test was just beginning. The Rothschild Enterprises office was silent that evening, most of the employees having already gone home. Alex was in his living room, staring out of the window at the lights of Manhattan, lost in thought. The day had been a roller coaster of emotions and negotiations, and he was still processing it all. A soft knock on the door brought him out of his reverie. "Come in," he said, turning around. Rosa entered, carrying 2 cups of coffee. "I thought you might need this," she said with a soft smile. Alex felt his heart race at the sight of her, something that was happening with increasing frequency. "You know me too well," he replied, accepting the cup gratefully. For a moment, they sat in silence, enjoying the coffee and each other's company. It was Rosa who finally broke the silence. "Today was intense," she said, looking at Alex with a mixture of admiration and concern. "How are you feeling?" Alex sighed, running a hand through his hair. Honestly, exhausted, relieved, scared, all at the same time. Rosa nodded understandingly. "You were amazing today, Alex. The way you dealt with Lauren, how you presented our ideas, it was impressive." "We were amazing," Alex corrected, his eyes meeting hers. "I couldn't have done any of this without you, Rosa." The look they shared at that moment was charged with unspoken emotion. Alex felt the urge to move closer, to tell Rosa exactly how much she meant to him. But something held him back, fear, perhaps, or the uncertainty of the moment. Rosa looked away first, a slight blush tinging her cheeks. "Well, I think we make a good team," she said softly. Alex was about to reply when his phone rang. He looked at the caller ID and frowned. "It's Bernard," he said, answering the call. The conversation was brief, but when Alex hung up, his expression was grave. "What is it?" Rosa asked, concerned. "Bernard has just informed me that a group of shareholders are demanding an emergency board meeting tomorrow. Apparently, they're not happy with the direction we're taking." Rosa felt a knot in her stomach. "Are they still trying to push you away?" Alex nodded slowly. "It seems so, and this time, they're playing hardball." The silence that followed was heavy with worry. Rosa approached Alex, placing a comforting hand on his arm. "Let's face this together," she said firmly. "You're not alone in this, Alex." Alex covered her hand with his, the touch sending sparks through them both. "I know," he said softly. "And that means more to me than you can imagine." Their gazes met again, and this time the tension between them was palpable. Alex leaned in slightly, his eyes dropping to Rosa's lips. She didn't pull away, her heart pounding in her chest. But before anything could happen, Rosa's phone rang, breaking the moment. She pulled away abruptly, answering the call with trembling hands. "Miguel?" Her voice was worried. "What? Okay, I'm going home now." When she hung up, Alex was looking at her with concern. "Is everything all right?" Rosa shook her head, looking agitated. "Miguel has a fever. The nanny is worried. I need to go." Of course, Alex said quickly. "Go. Don't worry about anything here. Your son needs you." Rosa hesitated for a moment, clearly torn between her concern for Miguel and her desire not to leave Alex alone at this critical moment. "Rosa," Alex said softly, "go. I'll be fine. Looking after Miguel is more important now." With one last grateful look, Rosa hurried off, leaving Alex alone with his thoughts and the ghost of the moment that almost happened. The next morning, the boardroom was tense. Alex sat at the head of the table, Rosa next to him, facing hostile looks from several council members. Bernard took the floor first. Alexander, we understand that you've been through a difficult time recently. But the changes you're implementing, well, many of us feel that they are hasty and potentially damaging to the company's interests. Alex took a deep breath, preparing himself for the battle to come. Gentlemen, I understand your concerns, but I firmly believe that these changes are not only necessary, but vital for the future of Rothschild Enterprises. The discussion went on for hours. Alex and Rosa presented data, answered questions, and passionately defended their vision for the future of the company. But it was clear that many on the board were still not convinced. Finally, one of the longest-serving board members, Richard Stevenson, spoke up. Perhaps, he said slowly, it's time to consider a change of leadership. Temporarily, of course. Just until things stabilize. The silence that followed was deafening. Alex felt as if the ground had disappeared beneath his feet. He looked at Rosa, seeing the shock and indignation in her eyes. It was at that moment that the door to the room opened, and Lauren Blackwood walked in, followed by her legal team. "Sorry I'm late, gentlemen," she said, her voice cutting through the tension in the room. "I hope I haven't missed anything important." Lauren's arrival completely changed the dynamic of the meeting. She sat down, looking directly at Alex. "I heard there was some unrest here," she said. "Let me be clear. West Coast Tech is interested in a merger with Rothschild Enterprises led by Alexander Rothschild. If there is any change in leadership, we will consider it a breach of trust and withdraw completely from the negotiations." The impact of his words was immediate. The board members who moments before were ready to push Alex away now seemed to quickly reconsider their positions. Alex looked at Lauren with a mixture of surprise and gratitude. She gave him a small smile before turning to the council. "Gentlemen, I've seen at close quarters the changes Alexander is implementing. They are bold, yes, but also visionary. It's exactly the kind of leadership we want in a partner." The meeting continued for some time, but the outcome was clear. With Lauren's support, Alex's position was secure, at least for the time being. When it was finally over, Alex found himself alone with Rosa again. He turned to her, a tired but triumphant smile on his face. "We did it," he said softly. Rosa smiled back, her eyes shining. "Yes, we did it." For a moment, they stood there, just looking at each other, the relief and emotion of the moment palpable between them. "Rosa," Alex began, his voice low and intense. But before he could continue, Rosa stepped forward and, on an impulse of courage and emotion, pressed her lips against his. The kiss took Alex by surprise, but he responded immediately, wrapping Rosa in his arms. It was a kiss full of repressed passion, of feelings long denied, of silent promises. When they finally broke apart, they were both out of breath. Alex leaned his forehead against Rosa's, his eyes closed, savoring the moment. "I've been wanting to do this for a long time," Rosa whispered. Alex opened his eyes, meeting her gaze. "Me too," he admitted. "But Rosa, are you sure? There's so much at stake." Rosa placed a finger over his lips, gently silencing him. "Alex, in the last few days, we've faced some of the biggest challenges I've ever seen, and in every moment, you've proved yourself to be not only the leader this company needs, but the man I fell in love with." The words hung between them, charged with emotion and possibility. Alex felt his heart expand with a happiness he could barely contain. "I love you, Rosa," he said simply. "And no matter what happens next, we'll face it together." They kissed again, more gently this time, sealing their promise to each other. Outside the room, Lauren Blackwood watched the scene through the ajar door, an enigmatic smile on her lips. She turned, walking silently down the corridor. "Interesting," she muttered to herself. "Very interesting indeed." As the sun set over Manhattan, casting a golden glow through the office windows, Alex and Rosa stood embraced, the world around them momentarily forgotten. They had won a crucial battle, but they both knew that the war was far from over. The future was uncertain, full of challenges and obstacles. But now, at least, they would face it together. The rising sun painted the New York sky in shades of pink and gold, a new day dawning over the city that never sleeps. At the top of the Rothschild Tower, Alex stood by the window of his penthouse, watching the metropolis awaken. 6 months had passed since that fateful day in the office, when he and Rosa finally admitted their feelings for each other. 6 months of changes, challenges, and, above all, growth. The soft sound of footsteps brought him out of his thoughts. Rosa approached him, wrapping her arms around him from behind. "Good morning," she murmured, her voice still hoarse from sleep. "Thinking about the big day." Alex smiled, turning to face her. "How can I not? We've changed everything today." The big day they were referring to was the official completion of the merger between Rothschild Enterprises and West Coast Tech. But it was more than that. It was the culmination of months of hard work, of a vision that had transformed not only the company, but also the lives of everyone involved. "Nervous?" Rosa asked, studying his face. Alex considered for a moment before answering. "Surprisingly, no. For the first time in a long time, I feel we're on the right track." Rosa smiled, that smile that always warmed Alex's heart. "You made it happen, Alex. Your vision, your courage. We made it happen," Alex corrected her gently. "I would never have made it this far without you, Rosa." They kissed softly, a moment of calm before the storm that would be the day ahead. The Rothschild Enterprises auditorium was packed. Employees at all levels, board members, representatives from West Coast Tech, and a horde of journalists, all waited anxiously for the official announcement. Alex took the stage, Rosa by his side. The buzz from the crowd died down as he approached the microphone. "Good morning, everyone," he began, his voice firm and clear. "Today is a historic day, not just for Rothschild Enterprises and West Coast Tech, but for the business world as a whole." He paused, his eyes scanning the audience. 6 months ago, when I faced personal challenges, many questioned my ability to lead this company. Some even suggested that I should step down. A murmur ran through the audience. Bernard Barr, sitting in the front row, looked away uncomfortably. "But it was in that moment of crisis that I discovered something fundamental," Alex continued. "I discovered that a company isn't just about profits and shares. It's about people, about community, about the impact we have on the world around us." He gestured towards Rosa. "It was thanks to Rosa Mendez that I began to see our company and our role in society from a new perspective. And it is with great pride that I announce that, as part of this merger, Rosa will be our new Director of Social Responsibility and Sustainability." Applause erupted in the audience. Rosa, although already aware of the announcement, couldn't help the tears that welled up in her eyes. Alex waited for the applause to die down before continuing. "This merger isn't just about expanding our business. It's about redefining what it means to be a corporation in the 21st century. As of today, 10% of our profits will go towards social and environmental initiatives. We are launching training and development programs for underprivileged communities. And every decision we make will be evaluated not just for its financial impact, but for its impact on society and the planet." The reaction from the audience was mixed. Enthusiasm from many employees, pensive expressions from some executives, approving smiles from the West Coast Tech representatives. Lauren Blackwood, sitting next to Bernard, applauded with a satisfied smile. Months ago, she had recognized the transformative potential of Alex and Rosa's vision. Now she could see that vision becoming a reality. Alex concluded his speech with a message of hope and determination. When he finished, the ovation was deafening. As they left the stage, Alex and Rosa were inundated with people offering congratulations and expressing enthusiasm for the future of the company. Bernard approached them, looking a little uncomfortable. "Alexander, I wanted to apologize," he said, holding out his hand. "I was wrong about you, about all of this." Alex smiled, shaking Bernard's hand. "Thank you, Bernard. I hope we can work together on this new chapter." Bernard nodded, a small smile appearing on his face. "I'd be honored." The celebration went on for hours. Alex and Rosa circulated around the room, talking to employees at all levels, listening to their ideas and concerns. At the end of the day, exhausted but happy, they finally had a moment alone. "We did it," Rosa said softly, entwining her fingers with Alex's. Alex pulled her close, kissing her softly. "Yes, we did it. But this is only the beginning." They looked out of the window at the city that stretched out below them. The sun was setting, painting the sky in vibrant colors, a spectacular end to a memorable day. "You know," Alex said thoughtfully, "a few months ago, when I lost my memory, I thought I'd lost everything. My identity, my purpose." Rosa looked at him tenderly. "And now?" Alex smiled, his eyes shining with emotion. "Now I realize that it was the best thing that could have happened to me. It gave me the chance to rediscover who I really am, to find a new purpose, and to find you." Rosa felt tears forming in her eyes. "I love you, Alex, and I'm so proud of the man you've become." "I love you too, Rosa," Alex replied, his voice full of emotion. "And I can't wait to see what the future holds." They kissed again, a kiss full of love, hope, and promise. As night fell over New York, Alex and Rosa stood in each other's arms, looking out over the city they had helped to transform. They knew that the road ahead would not be easy. There would be challenges, obstacles, moments of doubt. But they would face it together, with love, with courage, and with the certainty that they were making a difference. And as the city lights twinkled around them, Alex and Rosa smiled, ready to write the next chapter of their story, a story of love, transformation, and a brighter future for all. A year later, the Rothschild West Tech Foundation had become a model of corporate responsibility. Its sustainability initiatives and social programs were inspiring change throughout the corporate world. Rosa's son Miguel was now attending one of the best schools in the city, thanks to a scholarship program set up by the foundation. He dreamed of one day following in the footsteps of his mother and Alex, combining business with social impact. Alex and Rosa married in an intimate ceremony, with Miguel as the proud best man. Together, they continued to lead the company with the same passion and vision that had brought them together. The story of the billionaire who lost his memory and found his true purpose, guided by a cleaning lady with a heart of gold, had become legendary on Wall Street. It was a constant reminder that sometimes you have to lose everything to find what really matters. And so, in the city that never sleeps, a new era had begun. An era of business with purpose, of compassionate leadership, of love that transcends social barriers. Alex and Rosa had proved that, with courage, vision, and love, it was possible not only to dream of a better world, but to build it, one day at a time.